Welcome to Lesson 2 in Unit 2, Sun and Shade. In this lesson, students will answer the question, what is shade? Students explore shadows with flashlights and outside with the sun. They also design sunshades for Mr. Bear, and then redesign to improve the sunshades. They figure out that to create a shadow there must be a light source, a light blocker, and a surface for the shadow to appear on. In the Engage portion of this lesson, students will recall from the previous lesson what made shade on the playground. They will then consider what a shadow is and what causes them by discussing the personal experiences students have had with shadows. In the Explore portion of the lesson, read the poem My Shadow by Robert Louis Stevenson. Then have students investigate using flashlights in a darkened room in order to discover the steps necessary to create shadows. They can explore how to make their shadows long and short, like in the poem, in order to construct explanations about what affects the length of their shadow. A similar exploration can be done outside on the playground. Students will locate the sun in the sky, determine what object is making a shadow, and where the shadow is on the ground. This can be done with multiple objects. They will use this investigation to construct explanations about what is causing shadows on the ground outside. In the Explain portion of the lesson, students will use their observations from the previous activities to create a list about what is needed to make a shadow. Record student responses on chart paper. At this point, students should understand that shadows are caused by light, something to block the light, and a surface to see the shadow. Next, they will consider the source of the light in each of their investigations. Inside, the light source was the flashlight causing the shadows to appear. However, outside, the sun was the source of the light. Students will refine a model in their student journal to show where the sun should be in order to make the shadows depicted in the two pictures on this student journal page. They will then connect shadows back to their previous learning about shade. Have them discuss how shadows from trees and objects on the playground create shade. Next, read aloud the book Dark as a Shadow by Lawrence Lowry. The Read Aloud guide found in the teacher pages here provides guidance for discussing what causes shadows, as well as how shadows change length, shape, and size. In the Elaborate portion of the lesson, students will use Mr. Bear to make a shadow and change the length of that shadow. Demonstrate, if necessary, holding the flashlight level with the table and then bringing it slowly overhead. Do this several times and then have the students duplicate your effort. Note in this tutorial video how the shadow gets longer. Tutorial videos are available for further viewing on our website and on our YouTube channel, mySci Videos. Next, reintroduce the design challenge by giving the students the prompt, Mr. Bear was outside on a hot, sunny day. He wanted to enjoy the outdoors, but he was just too hot. What problem does Mr. Bear have? Guide the students to identify Mr. Bear's problem and possible solutions, including that the students should design something to provide shade for Mr. Bear. Show the students the materials they will use in their design, including flashlights, construction paper, popsicle sticks, clay, paper plates, and Mr. Bear. You will also introduce the students to the engineering design cycle. Students have already identified Mr. Bear's problem. Now they need to brainstorm designs for their shade structure, considering how the color of their material might affect their structure. They can pick one design, build a prototype, test it out, and redesign to make any improvements. Once students have completed their designs, bring a flashlight to each table and shine it straight down on the shade structure. Then shine it from each side to see the effectiveness of their structure. Students can also take their shade structure outside to see if it provides shade throughout the day as the sun changes position. If the students have designed a shade structure that covers Mr. Bear from all angles, come up with something else to challenge them. For example, perhaps students can make their shade structure wider, or could they create a structure for a taller bear? In the Evaluate portion of this lesson, students will complete a formative assessment to show their understanding that the sun heats the Earth's surface and how tools can be used to design structures that limit the warming from sunlight. Students will draw a shade structure for Mr. Bear. Their drawing should include labels for the sun, the shade structure, and the shadow. By the end of this lesson, students will demonstrate the 3 things needed to make a shadow: a light source, something blocking the light, and a surface to see the shadow. They will also demonstrate that it is cooler in the shade than it is in a sunny spot.